Shereé, and in today's video, this is episode number 9 of Elevate with Ankara. I'm so excited to bring you this video, but first, before we get into all the details, if you're new to my channel, welcome, and if you're a returning person, thank you so much for your continued support. All right, let's get into it. If you hadn't already heard about the sewing series Elevate with Ankara, this is a sewing series put together by myself and Talisha of Creativity by T here on YouTube and on Instagram. And in this series, we have been encouraging people to elevate their basic sewing patterns by using Ankara fabric. If you've never used Ankara fabric before, it is African wax print fabric, and it comes in lots of different prints and colors. It's just such a fun type of fabric, and it really is suitable for putting special touches on basic patterns, okay? In our last video, we shared a lot of different pattern suggestions on jackets that we believe could be elevated with Ankara fabric, and in today's video, I'm revealing the jacket that I created. The jacket that I created is the Friday Pattern Company Ilford Jacket. Now, I know you must be thinking, girl, didn't you just make a jacket that was an Ilford jacket recently? And yes, you're absolutely right. However, this time I elevated it by using Ankara fabric. I changed it up a bit, and we'll get into the details of how I changed the pattern in order to make it look like a totally different jacket. I have my notes here, so I'm going to be referring to them, so please forgive me if I look down more than once or twice, okay? So this particular pattern is actually a drop shoulder pattern that comes with 2 different sleeve options. You can do a sleeve option that stops right about here, and then you can do the full length option, which is what I chose to do. And doing the full length option, it actually has a little placket on the side here, and it also has a little button at the wrist cuff. So that is how the sleeves are different. This particular pattern actually comes with 7 different pocket options, so you can switch this pattern up and change it up as often as you want. You could make 5 to 7 to 10 different jackets, and they would all look very different based off of the different pockets that you decide to use, which I think is a fantastic option. And honestly, these pockets are drafted in a way that you could actually apply them on a ton of different patterns, not just this particular jacket pattern. This particular jacket does have a collar, however, it does not require a collar stand, which makes it very easy when you go to construct your collar. This also has a button placket. However, the button placket is a part of the front piece of the pattern, so you actually don't have to sew on a separate button placket and worry about whether or not your button placket is going to line up nicely with your collar, because it's all built into the front pieces, which is, I think, is a really awesome touch and perfect for beginners. Now, you can choose to use whatever buttons that you'd like for this particular jacket. However, I do want to let you know that it suggests 1 to 1.5 inch buttons, and I chose to do 5/8 inch buttons because that's what I had in my stash. I have made a version that has 1 inch buttons, and that I think is nicer, especially when you're working with a thicker fabric. Let's talk about fabric. This particular pattern suggests using lightweight woven fabrics. However, mine is different, and we'll talk about that, but it suggests woven fabrics like canvas and linen. Let's see, what are some other ones? Denim, corduroy. It also suggests drapey fabrics and flannels. Those are all lovely suggestions, and the version that I made before was a brushed cotton flannel. So it was beautiful, it was soft, it was nice, it was lightweight, but it was not appropriate for winter and us transitioning into spring, where I live, it's still cold. So I chose to do something a little different, and I actually chose to use quilting fabric, okay? So this is actually a quilt that I purchased, and I cut it up and made a jacket out of it. And so that is what I chose to use along with my cotton African wax print Ankara fabric. Now, let's talk about the number of buttons. Now, the number of buttons that it suggests for this jacket depends on the length that you're going to do. It suggests 5 to 12 buttons. Now, if you space your buttons out, maybe you don't need to use as many, but that is what the suggestion is. And the reason why you need so many is because not only do you have to do the button placket in the front, but the sleeve placket also requires a button. So that is why you need up to 12 buttons for this particular pattern. And the other thing is that this particular pattern requires, for the size that I made, 3 yards of fabric. And I actually think that it'd be safer if you got a little over 3 yards, especially if you are working with a narrow width of fabric. Ankara wax print fabric is typically 45 inches, and in some cases after you wash it, 44 inches wide. So if you are a person that is using a fabric that has a shorter width, then I suggest maybe doing a little bit more than 3 yards just to make sure that you have enough to cover everything that you need. Now, this is a jacket that does not have to be lined. However, mine is lined. You can absolutely make this very quickly because it doesn't require lining. However, it does require, or not necessarily require, it does suggest that you use bias binding in order to finish the seams on the inside of the jacket, and that will definitely take you some time in adding all of the areas on the jacket. Does that mean that this jacket then becomes an advanced jacket? I don't think so. I think a beginner can absolutely still make this jacket even though it requires bias binding on the inside. The last version that I made, I did not use bias binding on the inside. I actually just serged the inside, and because it was a lightweight fabric, it was fine. However, when you are using a quilting fabric, it is thick and there's batting in the middle. So when you cut the pieces out, you have fuzzy batting, which looks like cotton balls, that comes out of the sides of the fabric. And so you absolutely want to use bias binding. And as you can see, I chose to use a bright blue bias binding on the inner seams of my jacket. I do, however, wish that I had done a little bit of a neater job of creating my bias binding, because if I had, I might have been able to pull this jacket off and make it a reversible jacket. Now that would have been really awesome. All I would have had to do was make pockets to go on the inside of the jacket, and I think that that would have been so cool. However, I didn't think about it until after I was done making the jacket. So maybe that'll be something that you can do, or something that I'll do in the future. So this particular pattern actually comes in sizes extra small to 7X, and an extra small is a 32 to 33 chest, 24 to 25 waist, 34 to 35 hip, and then this 7X is a 59 to a 60 inch bust, 52 to a 53 waist, and 62 to a 63 hip. I think this is a very nice size inclusive pattern, and I think that anybody could make this and look really nice in it. The pattern rating for this pattern is actually confident beginner. I highly agree with that. The instructions were written so very well and easy to follow. In addition though to these awesome instructions, there are sew along videos on the Friday Pattern Company YouTube channel that you can sew along with. And the cool thing is that you can go back and forth to those videos and fast forward to different points in the videos to help you in the areas that you actually need help with. You don't have to watch the whole thing through, which I think is really nice. And because of the easy construction of the collar, the fact that the placket is already included in the front piece, it's not a separate piece that you have to sew on, those all make me think that a beginner would have zero issues making this jacket. So I definitely agree that this is a confident beginner pattern. The only thing that would be challenging, in my opinion, is creating the buttonholes and the buttons, and also creating this little placket for the sleeve is a bit tricky. You just have to take your time, and maybe it might take a practice. Maybe you have to redo it once, but it's honestly not that hard. And if you follow along with the video tutorial, you should have no issue. But this and the buttons and buttonholes would be the most challenging part of this jacket. I wanted to be able to tell you how much time I spent sewing this jacket, but to be perfectly honest, I lost track. When you are making something for the very first time, you haven't seen anybody else do it, so you don't know how to approach it. Sometimes it adds on some additional time for construction and just kind of like tinkering and trying to figure things out. And so I lost track of time trying to figure out how I was going to do this project. So I want to say that it was a bit lengthier than I had imagined that it would be, because I thought it would just come together super fast and easy like my first one did. But there are some factors that obviously were going to make it a longer sewing project. For one, it is a longer jacket, required more buttons and buttonholes. So I already knew that that was going to be something. But the other thing is I wasn't sure how I was going to go about lining the jacket. I knew I wanted to use this awesome yellow quilt that I purchased on Amazon. However, I didn't know how I was going to go about lining the jacket. I have lined now 3 jackets, and it's not my favorite thing to do. It is challenging, and I always find it the most challenging when it comes to finishing off the last bit of opening that you turned your jacket inside out with. If you've lined a jacket before, you know what I'm talking about. And being able to hide those stitches so that it's not completely obvious that that's the area where you turned your jacket out. So I was kind of apprehensive about how I wanted to approach attaching lining to this jacket. So I decided to take the easy/lazy route. And let me tell you what I did. For my beginning sewist, you can do this too. I actually used a basting spray. Hold that thought, I'm gonna go grab it. Okay, so the first thing that I did is I cut out all of the pattern pieces in the African wax print fabric, the Ankara fabric, and then I sprayed the wrong side of each piece with this basting adhesive, which is used for quilting. I've also been using this for embroidery, and I stuck the African wax print Ankara fabric onto the quilt. Okay, so it had glued itself to the quilt. Okay, so I did that on the wrong side of the quilt, and then I cut around those pieces. Okay, so I did not lay my pattern pieces out on the Ankara fabric and then turn around and lay them out onto the quilting fabric. I literally just glued my Ankara pieces onto the quilted fabric and then cut around the pieces. That is how I chose to make this jacket. So now in doing that, because Ankara fabric is thin, it was almost like treating these pattern pieces as one piece. Okay, so I didn't have to deal with creating a lining and then creating the jacket and then combining the lining to the jacket. In my mind, that was the easiest approach, and for this particular jacket, it worked nicely. There are other jackets that I've made that you could not do this with, but for this jacket, it did work out nicely. The one thing that I do want to say though is that because my fabric is black in the background, there were areas where the glue kind of seeped through and you could see almost like water stains. I don't know if you guys have ever seen water stains on black fabric, but it just kind of showed as like a dried liquid stain that was white and ashy, and it came through on some of the pieces as it was drying. To be honest, I noticed that after lint rolling it a few times and just wearing it, it disappeared. It wasn't a big deal. However, if you wash your jacket, then that adhesive spray will just go away. Correct me if I'm wrong, quilting sisters out there that actually know what they're talking about when it comes to basting spray. This was my first experience, but I'm pretty sure that it'll just wash away just like it does when I embroider. So anyway, I think that that was the best way for me in approaching this project and treating these pieces as one piece of fabric rather than a lining and the jacket. So that's how I did that. I do want to say though that since this was my first time using bias binding for the inside of the jacket, it's not super neat. And if I had the time and the desire, I would probably go back in and reattach these just so that it could be a bit neater, but no one's looking at the inside of my jacket. It's definitely sewn sturdy and strong. It's not gonna come apart. So I'm not really worried about it. And this is going to be a jacket that I wear all the time while I'm working. And if you didn't know this already, I work with children. My children don't care. They're gonna see the pretty flowers. They're not gonna worry about the inside of the construction of my jacket. I will take this off and show you what it looks like on the inside so that you can see. It definitely looks nice. It just doesn't look professional because my stitching isn't perfect. But I'm not worried about it, and you shouldn't worry about it either. Okay, this is the first attempt, but now that I've done it, I know that going in to do it again, I'd probably have an easier time with that. Another thing that is challenging when sewing with quilting fabric is that it gets really thick in the underarm area, and my sewing machine struggled with doing the underarm area with all the different layers from the sleeve, the front piece, and the back. It just became very thick, and even with using one of those special feet on my sewing machine, to press it down. What is it called? Walking foot. Even with using a walking foot on my sewing machine, I still struggled, and I ended up having to hand sew the underarm area on both sides in order just to make sure that it was nice and secure and I didn't have to worry about raising my arms too fast and something popping or whatever. So your sewing machine may not struggle with this. And what's interesting is I have a brother's sewing machine. It is actually advertised as a quilting sewing machine, but I would imagine that this is different in that I'm not making a flat quilt. I'm actually layering several layers of quilting fabric over each other with binding. So it struggled. It surprised me, but you know, it is what it is. So that's what's going on with the underarm area. And honestly, that was the only area in creating this jacket where I really struggled. So I say that's a win, okay? Now, I definitely think that if I had to do it again, I would have taken my husband's advice about the buttons. And when I tell you, my husband is stylish and he just sees things sometimes that I don't even think about. I mean, it really blows me away, okay? One of the things he said is, well, this doesn't look anything like the jacket examples that you showed me. He said, you should totally use toggles and loops, and then it would look more like a Paddington jacket. Yes, absolutely. Why didn't I think of that? Okay. Now, by the time I was sewing this up, I was so close to being finished that there was no way I was going to get in my car and drive to Joann's to buy toggles and loops. And a lot of times they don't even have special things like that at my Joann's. So there's a chance I wouldn't have found it. But yes, this jacket absolutely in the right colors, okay, with the right toggle and loops would look so much like a Paddington jacket. If you don't know what Paddington is, it's a teddy bear. I'll insert a picture so that you know what I'm talking about. But it's a movie that my kids love, and this little bear, he just roams around the city and has a good old time in his cool jacket, and it has toggles and loops. But it made it look more like a coat, and he's absolutely right. If I had to do it again, I totally would have used yellow toggles and loops for the buttons, but instead I used what I had in my stash, which was tiny buttons. And so when you use tiny buttons like this on thick fabric, it is a little bit more clumsy to button, but you can button it and it still looks nice. I just think that if I hadn't done toggle buttons, I wish I had used a larger button. So just like the recommended button size in the pattern, I wish I would have done 1 to 1.5 inch buttons for the jacket. But it still looks beautiful. It still functions the way it's supposed to. It's just the button is a bit tighter than I would like. So that gave me some ideas for the next time that I make an Ilford jacket in a thick, warmer fabric. I definitely could see someone making this in a nice coating fabric, a wool fabric. I personally can't do it, but someone else could, and I think it would be amazing. And it would not look like a shacket at all, because if you know anything about this pattern, the Ilford jacket pattern is actually a shacket pattern. So does this look like a shacket to you? It doesn't look like a shacket to me, especially because of the pockets, right? These are called hand warmer pockets, which I think is so cute, and it's actually the perfect name for it because that's how I wear it. It's big. My hand is completely stretched out. You see that? And it can be just like that in my pockets. I can hold everything I need in these pockets. It's so nice, which is another reason why I'm really kicking myself for not adding the same pocket on the inside as well, because I would have loved to have put like my wallet and my phone on the inside and my hands on the outside. It's okay. I can always hand stitch pockets on the inside if I decide to, but moving forward, if I make this again in a thick jacket fabric, I would absolutely double pocket it. I chose not to do pockets on the breast just because I didn't want to take away from the beautiful print on this jacket. It is just so gorgeous. I love this fabric so much. I'm actually considering buying it again so that I can make a dress or a skirt out of it. I do have some fabric left over because I bought a 6-yard bundle. However, I think I can only get a nice top out of what's left. I'm going to turn the jacket so that you can see what the back looks like. And I'll also be inserting lots of pictures so that you can check out what it looks like on. Now the pictures are not the best quality because I took them with my phone when I was visiting my mother one weekend out of town. And so the vibrancy of the pictures is not as clear, but it is a beautiful jacket and it looks really nice on. So this is what the jacket looks like. As you can see, This gorgeous print is just show-stopping. So my husband played an alumni baseball game at Fresno State, and that is why we were in town. And I wore this jacket, and so many people stopped me to ask me where I bought it, and it made me feel so proud, because it was something, like I told you, I was just kind of like winging it as I was making it. And so I hadn't seen one like it, so I just thought, oh, I'll just make what I want, you know. And to have somebody compliment me and also want to know where they could buy one really made me feel good. But as you can see, I have the contrast quilting fabric for the collar and for the pockets, and then we have this gorgeous Ankara wax print fabric that is uninterrupted. You can see all the print and pattern and gorgeous color all over it, and I just think it's stunning, and I love this jacket so much. It's fun, it's vibrant, it speaks to my personality, and I love wearing it. I think it came out really nice. I do want to give you a special note or tip. If you are going to make this pattern out of a thick fabric, or you're going to line it with quilting fabric, do make your sleeves wider. The reason why is because with all these layers of fabric, and it's also lined and thick, it takes away from some of the room that is, or the ease, I guess, of the pattern that was built in. You need to make it bigger so that it can accommodate the fact that you're using a thicker fabric. When I wear this jacket, I can't wear a sweatshirt underneath, which I love to do, guys. I wear sweats all the time. Can't wear a sweatshirt underneath, can't wear a super thick sweater underneath, because if I do, I can't close the button placket on my jacket, and I can't easily lift my arms up and down. So when I'm wearing this, I'm wearing t-shirts, I am wearing bodysuits, something that hugs close to the body and it fits really nicely in the sleeve without creating too much bulk, because I want to be able to move around comfortably. So if you're making this jacket out of a thick fabric, I highly recommend that you make your sleeve wider. You may even just be able to get away with making from here down the next size up in the pattern, maybe even 2 sizes, depending on what you plan to wear under your jacket. I highly recommend this jacket. I think it's a fantastic pattern. It's well written. The sew along videos are helpful. Anybody can make it. Like I mentioned before, with all the different variations of pockets and length options, you can make this look so different every time you make it. I definitely think that everyone would look good in this type of jacket. It is flattering on most people, and in my previous video, I actually inserted a little video clip from Instagram of tons of different versions that people have made over the last couple of years, and you can see it looks good on everyone. I think that everyone should give it a try. If you have never made a jacket before and you're a bit nervous, this is one that I think that you can approach, and it's not as intimidating. I know it has buttons, I know it has buttonholes, but all you have to do is practice on some test fabric before you actually put it on your actual jacket. So I highly recommend it, and I absolutely plan to make another version. I'm going to go ahead and insert some pictures of me modeling the jacket. Again, these are cell phone pictures, and my cell phone doesn't take very good pictures. It's been dropped a million times, it has cracks, it's a mess. But I did the best that I could, and you'll see in the picture that I'm in my mother's yard, so there's grass and trees and shading that wouldn't normally be there if I had taken the pictures with my camera. I decided to pair this with some extra flood Levi jeans. I love these jeans, you guys. I love these jeans so much. Anyways, I paired them with these jeans and a really cute Orlando tee that I made, which is a seamwork pattern, and it's pink. I think the combination just brought out the little pink flowers in my jacket so nicely. I felt cool, I felt comfortable, I felt cute, and I definitely wanted to wear my hair braided because it's winter and you can never control what's happening with the weather, and so I didn't want to do my hair and then foof out while I was on vacation or visiting my mom and be stuck, right? So I definitely felt like braids was the way to go, and typically that's how I wear my hair Monday through Friday anyway. But I love the way the jacket came out, and I absolutely plan to make another one. Maybe in a denim. I think that that would be amazing, guys. And oh, what if I combined quilting fabric with denim? That would be so cute, okay? Don't steal my idea. I'm kidding, we can share. But anyway, this is my awesome jacket. I hope you enjoyed hearing about my Ilford jacket, and I hope that you try it as well. If you do make one, I ask that you please send me a picture of it on Instagram. You can message it to me so that I can give you some praise on the hard work that you did. And I also am nosy and I just want to see what you're making. So make sure you reach out to me so that I can see the version you created. I hope you enjoyed seeing how I took a Ankara wax print fabric and I made it into a nice warm cozy jacket, how I elevated a basic pattern that so many people have made and made it special by using a bright, colorful, beautiful African wax print Ankara fabric, okay? If you enjoyed it, please do give me a thumbs up, and if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do that as well. Make sure that you head over to Talisha of Creativity by T's channel, and so that you can see the jacket that she created. I'm sure that it's awesome, okay? And if you enjoyed this series, make sure that you watch previous episodes that we've already uploaded, as well as our video, which should be coming out next week, where we introduce the next garment in the series. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic day and a wonderful week. Talk to you soon. Bye.